Welcome to the Royal Griot. To all our amazing viewers, thank you for being the heartbeat of this channel. Your support keeps these stories alive. If you are ready for a journey of heartbreak, redemption, and a love that defies the odds, you are in the right place. Now let's step into the glittering, dangerous world of Nairobi, where money talks, but silence screams the loudest. They call me the Lion of Nairobi. To the business magazines, I am Kamau Kenyatta, the man who turned a small inheritance into a continental empire. To my competitors, I am a shark in a tailored Italian suit. But to the women of this city, I am the Ice King. A cold-hearted monster with a vault where his heart used to be. They aren't wrong. The grand ballroom of the Villa Rosa Kempinski was suffocating me. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto the silk gowns of Nairobi's elite, but all I saw were vultures. I stood near the balcony, swirling the amber liquid in my glass, watching them circle. "Kamau, darling," a voice purred behind me. I didn't turn around. I knew the voice. Vanessa, the daughter of a mining tycoon. She had been chasing me for 6 months, convinced that her beauty could unlock the doors to my mansion and my bank accounts. "You're ignoring me," she said, sliding a manicured hand onto my tuxedo jacket. "Everyone is watching, you know. They say you're lonely. They say you need a queen to help you rule." I finally turned, my eyes locking onto hers with zero warmth. "Vanessa, do you know what else they say?" She smiled, thinking she had won. "What?" "That I value my time more than my fortune. And you are wasting both." The smile slid off her face like oil on water. The jazz band seemed to stop. The nearby guests went silent, their ears perking up to catch the drama. "How dare you," she hissed, her voice trembling. "I am the best option you have. You're 40 years old, Kamau. You have no heir. No legacy. Just a cold, empty house." That struck a nerve. The memory flashed in my mind, brief, sharp, and agonizing. A hospital room. 10 years ago. My wife, Wanjiku, and our unborn baby taking their last breaths because I was too busy building a company to notice she was sick until it was too late. That guilt was the concrete foundation of my life now. I stepped closer to Vanessa, my voice low but carrying the weight of a thunderclap. "I would rather let my bloodline end with me than mix it with someone who sees marriage as a merger. You don't want me, Vanessa. You want the private jet. You want the access. You are dismissed." I turned my back on her. I heard the sharp intake of breath from the crowd, followed by the clatter of her champagne glass smashing against the floor. Humiliation. Total and public. I didn't wait for the fallout. I signaled my security detail, walked straight through the kitchen exit, and stepped out into the cool Nairobi night. "To the penthouse, sir?" my driver, Omandi, asked as he held open the door of the black limousine. I looked at the tinted windows. I looked at the city lights of Westlands blinking in the distance. I felt sick. Sick of the perfume, the fake smiles, the gold diggers. "No," I said, loosening my tie. "Just drive. Go towards Eastlands. Anywhere but home." Omandi didn't ask questions. He knew the drill. Sometimes, the billionaire needed to pretend he wasn't carrying the weight of the world. We drove for 40 minutes. The scenery changed from the high walls and electric fences of the rich neighborhoods to the chaotic, vibrant energy of the working class. Matatus, the loud, colorful minibuses, zipped past us, blasting Afrobeats. The smell of roasted maize and exhaust fumes filled the air. It felt real. "Stop here," I commanded. We were parked in front of a small, somewhat run-down establishment called Mama Zuri's Kitchen. It had plastic chairs outside and a flickering neon sign. "Sir, this area isn't secured," Omandi warned, eyeing a group of men on the corner. "Stay in the car, Omandi. I just need a coffee that doesn't taste like pretension." I stepped out. My tuxedo drew eyes immediately. I looked like an alien, a man made of money standing in a place where people counted coins to buy supper. I ignored the stares and walked into the diner. It was warm inside, smelling of spicy polo and strong Kenyan tea. I sat in the darkest corner booth, dusting off the plastic tablecloth with a grimace. "We're closing in 10 minutes. The voice was tired but firm. I looked up. Standing there was a woman. She wasn't like the women at the gala. She wore a faded apron over a simple dress. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she had flour on her cheek. But her eyes, they were fierce. Dark, intelligent, and currently narrowing at me. "I said we are closing," she repeated, not intimidated by my suit or the Patek Philippe watch on my wrist. "I am Kamau Kenyatta," I said, expecting the usual reaction. Gasps, fawning, apologies. She blinked. "And I am Zuri. And Zuri wants to go home because her feet hurt. So, unless you want to buy the leftover mandazzi, you need to leave." I was stunned. Actually stunned. No one had spoken to me like that in a decade. I want a black coffee, I said, leaning back, testing her. And I'm not leaving until I get it. Zuri sighed, a sound of pure exhaustion. She looked at me, really looked at me, and her expression softened just a fraction. She didn't see the power struggle of the boardroom in my eyes. She saw a man running from something. Fine, she muttered. One coffee. Then you go back to your castle, Your Highness. She walked to the counter. I watched her. She was graceful despite the fatigue. She was struggling, clearly, her shoes were worn out and the diner was empty, but she carried herself with a dignity that Vanessa and her socialite friends couldn't buy. She returned with a chipped mug. Black. Bitter. Like your mood. She set it down, and as she did, her hand brushed mine. A shock like static electricity zipped up my arm. I pulled back instinctively. Careful, I snapped. It was an accident, she shot back, wiping her hands on her apron. Don't worry, poverty isn't contagious. I took a sip of the coffee. It was terrible. It was the best thing I'd tasted all night. You have a sharp tongue for a waitress, I observed. I'm not just a waitress. I own this place, she said proudly, looking around the dilapidated room. Inherited it from my grandmother. It's not a miracle, but it's mine. It's failing, I said bluntly. I couldn't help it. I was a businessman. I saw the books on the counter when I walked in. You're 3 months behind on rent. You're drowning. Zuri's face hardened. The softness vanished, replaced by a defensive wall. You were snooping? I was observing. I can buy this block and turn it into a parking lot with a single phone call. I'm telling you facts. You are poor, you are in debt, and you are proud. That is a dangerous combination. Get out, she whispered. I'm giving you advice. I said get out. Her voice rose, attracting the attention of the cook in the back. I don't need a rich snob coming in here to tell me my life is hard. I know it's hard. I live it every day. You think because you have money you know everything? You know nothing about survival. She grabbed my half-finished coffee. Leave. Now. I stood up, anger flaring. I wasn't used to being dismissed. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a stack of cash, thousands of shillings. I threw it on the table. There. That buys the coffee and your silence. Keep the change. You clearly need it more than I do. It was a cruel thing to do. I knew it as soon as the money hit the table. Zuri looked at the money, then at me. Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of rage. She didn't take the money. She didn't scream. She picked up the mug of hot coffee and, without a second of hesitation, splashed the entire contents onto my $3,000 tuxedo. The liquid burned my chest. I gasped, stumbling back. My dignity is not for sale, she said, her voice shaking. Get out of my shop. I stood there, dripping wet, smelling of cheap coffee, staring at this tiny woman who had just declared war on the most powerful man in the city. At that moment, the door chimes rang. A flash went off. I spun around. A freelance photographer, one of the paparazzi who followed my limo, was standing in the doorway, camera raised. He had captured the whole thing. Kamau Kenyatta, the billionaire, soaked and humiliated by a poor girl in a slum diner. My face went cold. This would be on the front page of every newspaper by morning. Billionaire attacked in slum. Or worse, the secret lover of Kamau Kenyatta? I looked back at Zuri. She looked horrified. She saw the camera and realized what had happened. You set me up, I said, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper. What? No, You knew who I was. You staged this. You wanted the photo. You want the payout. I stepped closer, looming over her. The soft-hearted curiosity I had felt moments ago was gone, replaced by the ice. I will ruin you, I promised her. I will take this little shop and I will crush it into dust. You messed with the wrong man, Zuri. I turned and stormed out to the limousine, leaving her standing there with her hands over her mouth, the money still scattered on the table, innocent but condemned. I dialed my lawyer before the car door even closed. Neema, I barked into the phone. I want to buy a property in Eastlands. Mama Zuri's kitchen. Yes. Tonight. Evict the tenant. Destroy it all. The next morning, my face was on every newsstand in Nairobi. I sat in the back of the Rolls-Royce, the leather cool against my back, holding an iPad with a grip so tight my knuckles were white. The headline on the Daily Nation screamed, "The Lion Tamed? Billionaire Kamau Kenyatta humiliated in slum brawl." The photo was high definition. It showed me, eyes wide, mouth open in shock, brown sludge dripping from my tuxedo lapels. And there was Zuri, her arm extended, the empty mug in her hand, looking like a vengeful warrior queen. "Sir," Omandi said from the driver's seat, his eyes nervously checking the rearview mirror. "The board of directors has called an emergency meeting. They say the stock price dropped 2% since the markets opened." "Let them panic," I muttered, swiping the screen off. "They are sheep. I am the shepherd." But I wasn't calm. I was boiling. A volcano of rage was erupting inside my chest, burning hotter than the coffee had the night before. It wasn't just the embarrassment. It was the betrayal. For a few seconds in that diner, looking into Zuri's tired, dark eyes, I had felt something. A spark. A recognition of a fellow lonely soul. I had let my guard down. I had offered her money, yes, but in my world, money was the only language of care I knew. And she had used that moment to ambush me. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Oh honey, you look like a wet dog. I told you stick to your own kind. Let me know if you need help cleaning up your mess." Hugs and kisses. I threw the phone onto the empty seat next to me. "Omandi," I barked. "Forget the office. Go to Eastlands. Go to the diner." "Sir, are you sure? The eviction team is all ready." "Drive." I needed to see it. I needed to watch the Empire strike back. I needed to see the regret in her eyes when she realized she had bitten the hand that could have fed her, or crushed her. We arrived 40 minutes later. The scene was chaotic. 2 large trucks were parked on the curb. Men in blue overalls were hauling tables, chairs, and kitchen equipment out of Mama Zuri's kitchen, and dumping them unceremoniously onto the dusty sidewalk. A crowd had gathered, neighbors, street urchins, and passers-by, watching the spectacle of the rich destroying the poor. I stepped out of the car. The crowd parted instantly. My presence was like a physical weight. I wasn't wearing a tuxedo today. I was wearing a charcoal gray suit, sunglasses, and an expression of pure granite. My lawyer, Neema, hurried over, wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. "Mr. Kenyatta, we didn't expect you personally. The acquisition went through at 9 a.m. We own the building. The tenant had no lease, just a verbal agreement with the previous owner. We gave her 1 hour to vacate." "Where is she?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. Neema pointed to the entrance. I walked past the movers. One of them was carrying a framed picture of an old woman. He tripped and the frame shattered on the pavement. Glass tinkled like cruel laughter. I stepped into the diner. It was hollowed out. The warmth was gone. It smelled of dust and old grease now. Zuri was standing behind the counter, packing a cardboard box. Her hands were trembling, but her back was straight. She was wearing the same dress as last night, but she looked smaller, struggling, defeated. She sensed me before she saw me. She froze, then slowly turned around. Her eyes were red and puffy. She had been crying, but the moment she saw me, the tears stopped. A wall of ice slammed down over her expression, matching my own. "Are you satisfied?" she asked quietly. I took off my sunglasses. "You did this to yourself, Zuri. You wanted attention? You got it. You wanted to make a statement? Now you have no platform to speak from." She let out a short, bitter laugh. "You think this is about the photo? You think I care about your reputation? Don't lie to me." I shouted, the sound echoing in the empty room. "I know how the world works. You saw a billionaire. You called a photographer. You staged a scene to sell a story. How much did they pay you? Was it worth your home? Was it worth your legacy?" Zuri grabbed a handful of silverware from the drawer and threw it into the box with a violent crash. "I didn't call anyone," she screamed back, her voice cracking. "I don't even own a smartphone, you arrogant fool. I can barely afford flour, let alone a paparazzi connection." "Lies," I hissed, stepping closer. "Everyone has a price. Everyone wants a piece of the fortune. You are no different. You're just bad at the game." She looked at me with such pity that it made me recoil. "You are so poor, Kamau. You have all the money in the world, but you are the poorest man I have ever met. Your heart is a graveyard." The words hit me like a physical blow. Graveyard. That was exactly what my life felt like since my wife died. A mausoleum of gold and silence. "Get out," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Take your trash and get off my property. If I see you near here again, I will have you arrested for trespassing." Zuri picked up her box. It looked heavy. She walked around the counter, stopping inches from me. She smelled of vanilla and soap, a clean, honest scent that didn't belong in this dirty city. "God is watching," she said softly. "He sees the boardroom and he sees the street. You will remember this day, Kamau. You will remember it when you are sitting alone in your mansion, realizing that money cannot buy peace." She walked past me. I didn't turn. I listened to her footsteps fade. I listened to the murmurs of the crowd outside as she exited. I listened to the sound of a homeless woman walking into an uncertain future. I should have felt triumphant. I had won. The power struggle was over. Justice, my twisted version of it, had been served. But as I stood there in the empty, silent kitchen, I didn't feel like a winner. I felt a cold draft on my neck. Mr. Kenyatta? I turned. It was one of the movers. He was holding a small, old-style Nokia phone. The screen was cracked. The lady, she dropped this when she was packing, the man said. I took the phone. It was ancient, taped together at the back. It definitely wasn't a smartphone capable of high-speed uploads or GPS tracking. Curiosity, that dangerous snake, uncoiled in my gut. I pressed a button. The screen lit up. There were no apps, no social media, just a call log and a message inbox. I checked the messages. Rent is due. Please pay or leave. Zuri, I can't lend you any more money. Sorry. Grandma's hospital bill, second notice. There was nothing else. No communication with journalists. No text to tabloids. No conspiracy. My stomach dropped. The cold-hearted certainty I had felt 5 minutes ago began to crack. I walked outside, clutching the cheap phone. Zuri was gone. The street was bustling with people, but she had vanished into the labyrinth of Nairobi. Neema, I called out to my lawyer. Yes, sir? The demolition crew is scheduled for tomorrow. We can turn this into a warehouse by next month. Did you see the photographer? I asked, scanning the crowd. The one from last night? Actually, yes. He was lurking by the corner shop. I think he wanted another shot of you. Bring him to me. Now. Neema signaled 2 of my security guards. They moved with terrifying speed, disappearing into the crowd and returning moments later dragging a scrawny man with a Canon camera around his neck. The man looked terrified. I didn't do anything. Freedom of press. I grabbed him by the collar of his shirt and slammed him against the side of the truck. Who called you? I demanded. Last night. Who told you I would be at this diner? I can't reveal my sources, he stammered. I tightened my grip. I am Kamau Kenyatta. I can buy the newspaper you work for and fire you today. Or I can have you arrested for stalking. Talk. The photographer swallowed hard. It was a tip. An anonymous tip. From whom? A woman. She called me at 8 p.m. She said, follow the limousine. He is going to Eastlands. He is distraught. It will be a good show. A woman, I repeated. My blood ran cold. Did she have a British accent? A high, posh voice. The photographer nodded frantically. Yes. Yes, exactly. She said she was a concerned friend. Vanessa. The realization washed over me like a bucket of ice water. Vanessa had seen me leave the gala. She knew I was upset. She had tipped off the press, hoping to catch me in a vulnerable moment to shame me back to her, or simply to punish me for rejecting her. Zuri had nothing to do with it. I looked down at the broken Nokia phone in my hand. The messages about hospital bills. The struggling. The pride. I had just evicted an innocent woman. I had thrown her onto the street because my ego couldn't handle a stain on my suit. I had destroyed the only thing she had left because a jealous socialite wanted to play games. The guilt hit me harder than any bankruptcy. It was a physical pain in my chest. I looked at the empty diner, now just a shell. Find her, I said to Amandi. Sir? Zuri. Find her. Search every shelter, every bus station, every clinic in this district. Do not stop until you find her. But sir, Neema interjected. We have the board meeting. The shareholders. To hell with the shareholders. I roared, causing the crowd to jump. I made a mistake. A grave mistake. And I am going to fix it. I got back into the car, but the luxurious interior felt like a prison cell now. I looked out the window at the gray sky. It was starting to rain. A heavy, tropical downpour that turned the dusty streets into rivers of mud. Somewhere out there, Zuri was walking in this rain. Homeless. Alone. Abandoned. And it was entirely my fault. As the car pulled away, I saw something on the floor mat where I had thrown the phone earlier. It wasn't the phone. It was a small piece of paper that must have fallen out of the box Zuri was carrying when she bumped into the doorframe on her way out. I picked it up. It was a photograph. Old and faded. It showed a younger Zuri smiling, holding a baby. On the back, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "My miracle. My destiny." I stared at the photo. Was it her child? A sibling? Where was this child now? The unborn baby that had died with my wife haunted my dreams, but this was a living mystery. A sudden, terrifying thought gripped me. If she had a child and I had just made them homeless. Drive faster, Omandi, I whispered, clutching the photo to my chest. Pray that we are not too late. The rain in Nairobi does not forgive. It does not wash away sins, it exposes them. It turns the red dust of the earth into a thick, clinging mud that drags you down, staining everything it touches. I watched the city blur through the rain-slicked window of my Rolls-Royce. The world outside was a smear of gray and charcoal, punctuated by the angry red glare of brake lights. The wipers slashed back and forth, a metronome counting down the seconds of my guilt. Swish, swish. Too late, too late. Drive slower, Omandi, I commanded, my voice barely rising above the hum of the engine. We need to see the sidewalks. Sir, the visibility is near zero, Omandi replied, his hands gripping the leather steering wheel tight. And this is a dangerous neighborhood for a car like this to be crawling. I don't care about the car, I snapped, then softened my tone. I rubbed my temples where a headache was beginning to throb. I don't care about the car, Omandi. Just look. Look for a woman with a cardboard box. Look for a mistake I need to fix. I leaned back, closing my eyes for a second. The image of Zuri's face when I accused her burned behind my eyelids. The shock. The hurt. And then, that terrible, quiet dignity when she walked away. You are so poor, Kamau. Her words echoed in the silence of the cabin. She was right. I sat on a net worth of $3 billion, yet I was spiritually bankrupt. I had let the trauma of losing Wanjiku turn me into a fortress. I thought I was protecting myself from pain, but I had only succeeded in locking myself in with the ghosts. And now, because of my cold-hearted arrogance, because I let a woman like Vanessa whisper poison in my ear, I had thrown an innocent woman into the storm. Sir. Omandi's voice cut through my reverie. There. By the grilled maize stand. The bus stop. I snapped my eyes open. I followed his finger. It was a desolate scene. The corrugated iron roof of the bus stop was leaking. A small group of people huddled together for warmth, but slightly apart from them, sitting on an overturned bucket, was a figure. She was soaked. The dress that had looked simple and elegant in the diner now clung to her frame, heavy and dark with water. She had wrapped her arms around the cardboard box, hunching over it, using her own body as a shield to keep whatever was inside dry. It was Zuri. My heart hammered against my ribs, a sensation I hadn't felt in the boardroom in years. This wasn't the adrenaline of a deal, it was the sickening lurch of fear. Stop the car, I ordered. Sir, the mud. I said stop. The car didn't even come to a full halt before I opened the door. The noise of the city rushed in, the drumming of the rain, the honking of matatus, the distant shout of a hawker. I stepped out. My Italian leather shoes sank instantly into 3 inches of cold, brown sludge. The rain hit me like a physical blow, soaking my suit jacket in seconds. I didn't care. The cold felt like penance. I walked toward her. The security detail in the follow car scrambled to get out, umbrellas popping open, but I waved them off. I needed to do this alone. I needed to face her without a shield. Zuri didn't look up as I approached. She was shivering violently, her teeth chattering with a sound that cut through the noise of the storm. Zuri, I called out. My voice was swallowed by a clap of thunder. I moved closer. Zuri. She flinched. She looked up slowly, her movements stiff from the cold. When her eyes met mine, there was no recognition at first. Just a glassy, exhausted stare. Then focus returned. She didn't scream. She didn't yell. She just pulled the box tighter against her chest and turned her head away. Go away, she whispered. It was a weak, broken sound. I have nothing left for you to take. I stood over her, the rain plastering my hair to my forehead. I felt like a monster. A giant looming over a wounded bird. I didn't come to take, I said, my voice hoarse. I came to... I know the truth, Zuri. I know about Vanessa. I know you didn't call the photographer. She let out a dry, humorless laugh that turned into a cough. Good for you. You solved the puzzle. Do you want a prize? I'm waiting for a bus to take me to a shelter in Kibra. Leave me alone. You are not going to a shelter, I said firmly. Look at you. You're freezing. You're shaking. And whose fault is that? She shot a glare at me, her eyes flashing with that same fire I had seen in the diner, though it was dimmer now. You threw me out. You and your men. You locked the doors. Where else am I supposed to go? I made a mistake, I said. The words tasted like ash, foreign and difficult. I was wrong. I am sorry. She stared at me. The rain dripped from her nose and chin. Sorry? You think sorry dries my clothes? You think sorry puts a roof over my head? You rich people. You think words are magic spells. You break things, say sorry, and expect them to be whole again. She tried to stand up, perhaps to move away from me, but her legs gave way. She stumbled, clutching the box. I moved on instinct. I lunged forward and caught her by the arm before she hit the mud. Her skin was ice cold. Alarmingly cold. "Let me go," she gasped, but there was no strength in her struggle. "Zuri, you are hypothermic," I said, panic rising in my throat. "Please. Put down the pride. Just for tonight. Let me help you." "I can't." Her eyes rolled back slightly, then focused again on the box in her arms. "The pictures. Neema's pictures. They'll get wet. Neema. The name from the back of the photo. My miracle. I will protect the pictures," I promised her. "I will protect everything. Please. Get in the car." She looked at the warm, glowing interior of the Rolls-Royce, then back at the dark, flooded street. She looked at me, searching my face for any sign of a trap. I kept my expression open, desperate. Finally she nodded. A tiny, imperceptible movement. I didn't wait. I scooped her up in my arms. She was shockingly light, frail under the weight of her wet clothes. She didn't protest. She just rested her head against my wet shoulder, too exhausted to fight the billionaire anymore. I carried her to the car. Omandi held the door open, his face etched with concern. I placed her gently on the cream leather seats, not caring about the mud or the water. I took the box from her hands and set it on the floorboard. "Turn up the heat," I ordered as I climbed in beside her. "Max." The door closed, sealing us in a quiet, warm cocoon. The contrast was jarring. Outside, the harsh reality of Nairobi. Inside, the smell of cedar and leather. Zuri was shivering uncontrollably now. Her teeth chattered so hard I was afraid they would crack. "Here," I said, stripping off my wetsuit jacket. I reached for the emergency blanket Omandi kept in the console, a plush wool throw with the family crest. I wrapped it around her, tucking it tight under her chin. My phone," she stammered. "I have it," I lied. "I didn't have it, it was in the other car with Meena. I'll get it to you. Just breathe." As the car began to move, gliding smoothly over the potholes that would have shattered a lesser vehicle, Zuri closed her eyes. The heat began to fill the cabin, but she was still pale. I watched her. I really looked at her. Without the anger, without the apron, she looked young. Too young to carry so much burden. There were fine lines around her eyes, stress lines, not age lines. Her hands, clutching the blanket, were rough, the hands of a worker. "Who is Neema?" I asked softly into the silence. I didn't expect her to answer. I thought she might be asleep. "My daughter," she whispered, not opening her eyes. The confirmation hit me in the gut. A daughter. "The photo I found, the baby," I said. "Where is she, Zuri? Is she safe?" Zuri's eyes flew open. For the first time I saw genuine fear. Not the fear of poverty, but the terrified, primal fear of a mother. "She is at Kenyatta National," she said, her voice trembling. She has a heart condition. A hole. Since she was born." I froze. A heart condition. "I was supposed to visit her tonight," Zuri continued, tears finally spilling over, mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "I bring her food. The hospital food, she hates it. And I sing to her. She can't sleep unless I sing." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I missed visiting hours. Because of the eviction. I missed it. She's alone. She's 6 years old, Kamau. She's alone in a ward with strangers, wondering why her mama didn't come." The guilt that had been a heavy weight now became a crushing anvil. I hadn't just made a woman homeless, I had separated a sick child from her mother. I had severed the lifeline of a 6-year-old girl fighting for her heart. "We will go there," I said instantly. Omandi, change course. Kenyatta National Hospital. "No," Zuri said, grabbing my wrist. Her grip was weak but frantic. "No, you can't. Visiting hours are over. The guards, they are strict. They won't let us in. And if I go there looking like this." She looked down at her muddy, soaked dress. "They will think I am a vagrant. They threaten to call social services if I don't look stable. I own the wing of that hospital," I said, my voice hard. "I donated the MRI machines. They will let us in." "No." She sat up, grimacing in pain. "Please. I can't let her see me like this. Shaking. Broken. She needs me to be strong. She sees me crying, she gets scared. Her heart rate goes up. The doctors said she needs calm." She slumped back against the seat. I need to dry off. I need to sleep for a few hours. I will go in the morning. Please. Just drop me somewhere dry. I looked at her. She was right. She was in no condition to comfort a child. She looked like she was on the verge of collapse herself. If she walked into a pediatric ward right now, she would terrify the staff. Okay, I said. Okay. We won't go to the hospital tonight. Just drop me at a hostel in Westlands, she murmured, her eyes closing again. I have a few shillings left. I am not dropping you at a hostel, I said. She didn't argue. The warmth of the car had finally seeped into her bones, and the exhaustion of the day, the eviction, the confrontation, the rain, knocked her out. Her breathing evened out. She fell asleep, her head lolling uncomfortably against the window. I reached out and gently moved her head so it rested on the headrest. Home, Omandi, I whispered. Omandi met my eyes in the rearview mirror. He looked shocked. No woman had been to the estate in 10 years. Not since the funeral. Sir? You heard me. Take us home. The drive to my estate in Karen took another 20 minutes. We passed through the massive iron gates, up the winding driveway lined with jacaranda trees that looked like weeping ghosts in the rain. The mansion loomed ahead, a sprawling structure of white stone and glass. It was beautiful, architectural perfection, and completely soulless. It was a house, not a home. We pulled up to the portico. The rain had softened to a drizzle. Don't wake the staff, I told Omandi. I'll carry her. I lifted Zuri out of the car again. She stirred slightly, murmuring something unintelligible, Neema, juice? But she didn't wake. I walked up the marble steps. The front doors swung open automatically. I stepped into the grand foyer. It was immense. A double staircase swept up on either side. A chandelier the size of a small car hung overhead. The floor was polished marble that reflected our figures. A man in a muddy suit carrying a woman wrapped in a blanket. My housekeeper, Mrs. N. George, appeared from the hallway. She was an older woman who had been with me since I was a boy. She was wearing her nightgown and a robe, looking alarmed. Mr. Kamau? We heard the car. Oh my God. She put a hand to her mouth. Is she dead? She's sleeping, I said quietly. She's exhausted and hypothermic. Mrs. N. George, please prepare the blue guest room. Turn on the heating. Get warm towels. And find some dry clothes. Something soft. Mrs. N. George stared at me. Her eyes went from my muddy shoes to the woman in my arms. A slow, confused smile spread across her face. The blue room. Yes, sir. Immediately. Does she need a doctor? Not yet. Just rest. And food. Make soup. The chicken broth Wanjiki used to like. The name hung in the air. I hadn't spoken it aloud to the staff in a decade. Mrs. N. George nodded solemnly. Yes, sir. I carried Zuri up the stairs. The house, usually so silent it felt like a tomb, suddenly felt different. There was a presence here. A heartbeat other than my own. I laid her down on the massive king-sized bed in the guest room. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, cool and crisp. I carefully unwrapped the wool blanket. She was still in her wet clothes. I couldn't change her. That would be improper. Mrs. N. George will be here in a moment to help you change, I whispered to her sleeping form. I stepped back looking at her. Against the opulence of the room, the silk curtains, the gold leaf trim on the ceiling, she looked even more fragile. A poor girl in a palace. It was a fairy tale turned upside down. I walked to the window and looked out at the dark grounds. The rain had stopped. The moon was trying to break through the clouds. I felt a vibration in my pocket. It was my personal cell phone. I pulled it out. It was a number I didn't recognize. A landline. Hello? Kamau Kenyatta speaking. Mr. Kenyatta? The voice was professional, clipped. This is Dr. Amani from Kenyatta National Hospital. I am calling regarding a patient, Zuri Mwangi. My blood froze. How did you get my number? Your number is listed as the emergency contact for the hospital's donor board. We couldn't reach the mother, Zuri Mwangi. Her phone is off. I am with her, I said quickly. She is indisposed. What is it? Is the girl okay? There was a silence on the other end. A heavy, terrifying silence. Sir, Neema went into cardiac arrest 20 minutes ago, the doctor said. We revived her, but her heart is failing. The valves are collapsing faster than we anticipated. She needs the surgery. Not next month. Now. Do it, I commanded. Operate. We can't, the doctor said, his voice straining. We don't have the specialized equipment for a pediatric valve reconstruction of this complexity. The only machine in the city that can do it is at the private Aga Khan hospital, and the surgeon there is currently out of the country. Get him back, I barked. I will send my jet. It will take too long, sir. She doesn't have days. She has hours. Maybe less. I gripped the phone so tight I heard the casing creak. I looked back at the bed where Zuri was sleeping. She looked so peaceful. She had no idea her world was ending. There must be a way, I said. Money is no object. Tell me what to do. There is one option, Dr. Amani said. There is a visiting specialist from South Africa, Dr. van der Merwe. He is the best in the continent. He is in Nairobi for a conference. But what? He is scheduled to leave in the morning, and he is notoriously difficult. He doesn't do emergency surgeries for public patients. He only operates at the premium wing. Where is he staying? I asked. The Villa Rosa Kempinski. The same hotel where I had humiliated Vanessa. The irony was bitter. I will get him, I said. Keep the girl alive, doctor. If her heart stops again, you restart it. Do you understand? I am coming. I hung up. I looked at Zuri one last time. If I woke her now, she would panic. She would rush to the hospital and watch her daughter die. I couldn't let that be the memory she kept. I had to be the miracle. I turned and walked out of the room, passing Mrs. N. George in the hallway. Watch her, I told the housekeeper. Do not let her leave this room. If she wakes up, tell her I went to handle business. Sir, you are soaked, Mrs. N. George said. You need to change. No time. I ran down the stairs, adrenaline flooding my veins. This wasn't about stock prices or mergers. This was about a life. A little girl named Neema. And a promise I had made to a sleeping woman who hated me. I burst out of the front doors. Omandi was waiting by the car, looking exhausted. We aren't done, Omandi, I said, sliding into the back seat. Get us to the Kempinski. And drive like the devil is chasing us. As the limousine roared back into the night, I looked at my reflection in the window. The cold, dead eyes of the Ice King were gone. In their place was something else. Fear. Determination. And for the first time in 10 years, hope. I was going to save that child, even if I had to drag the surgeon out of his bed with my bare hands. The Villa Rosa Kempinski is a fortress of luxury. Polished marble floors, soft jazz music, and the scent of expensive lilies. It is a world I know well. It is a world where I am usually treated like a god. But tonight I crashed into it like a natural disaster. I stormed through the revolving doors, my suit still heavy with water, mud caking my Italian shoes. I left a trail of dirty footprints on the pristine white floor. Guests in evening gowns and tuxedos turned to stare, gasping and whispering behind their hands. Sir, you can't come in here looking like... The concierge, a young man named David whom I had tipped generously in the past, rushed forward, his hands raised. I didn't stop. I grabbed him by the lapels of his uniform. My eyes were wild. Dr. van der Merwe, I growled. Room number. Now. Mr. Kenyatta? David's eyes widened in recognition. He looked at the mud, the sweat on my brow, the manic desperation in my eyes. Sir, have you been in an accident? The room, David. A child is dying. I shouted, my voice cracking. Where is the South African surgeon? The bar, sir. The balcony bar. He is having a nightcap. I released him and sprinted for the stairs. I didn't wait for the elevator. I took the steps 2 at a time, my lungs burning, my legs screaming. I wasn't running for a deal. I wasn't running for fortune. I was running for a ghost, for the unborn baby I couldn't save 10 years ago, and for the little girl who was currently fighting a war in a hospital bed. I burst into the bar. It was dimly lit, intimate. A few couples sat in booths. At the bar, a large man with silver hair and a thick beard was nursing a whiskey. He looked tired. I walked straight up to him. Dr. van der Merwe. He turned slowly. He looked me up and down with clinical detachment. I don't sign autographs after midnight, son. And you look like you need a shower, not a drink. My name is Kamau Kenyatta, I said, slamming my hand on the bar counter. I need you to come with me. Now. He chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. Kenyatta? The billionaire? I've read about you. You're the one who buys companies for breakfast. Listen, Mr. Kenyatta, I have a flight to Johannesburg at 8 a.m. I am retired for the evening. There is a 6-year-old girl at Kenyatta National, I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. Zuri Mwangi. Valve collapse. Dr. Amani says you are the only one who can do the reconstruction. The doctor's expression shifted slightly. The amusement vanished. Amani called me. I told him no. I don't have my team. I don't have my instruments. And frankly, the survival rate for that procedure in a public facility is less than 10%. I don't perform surgeries that are destined to fail. She will not fail, I said. She is a fighter. They are all fighters, Mr. Kenyatta. Biology doesn't care about spirit. He turned back to his drink. Go home. Let the girl go in peace. I saw red. I grabbed his whiskey glass and smashed it against the wall. The sound was like a gunshot. The bartender ducked. The music stopped. Listen to me, I hissed, leaning into his face. 10 years ago, I sat in a waiting room while my wife and child died because the best doctors were unavailable. I swore that if I ever had the power again, I would burn the world down to change the outcome. I pulled out my checkbook. I slammed it on the wet counter. Name your price. $1 million? $5 million? I will buy you a new hospital. I will buy you a fleet of private jets. I don't care. Just get in the car. Vander Merwe looked at the checkbook, then up at my eyes. He didn't look at the money. He looked at the pain. He saw the cold-hearted CEO stripped bare, revealing a grieving father. It's not about the money, he said softly. Then what? I begged. What do you want? I want you to understand that if she dies on the table, it is not my fault. And it is not yours. Just try, I whispered. Please. Give her the second chance I never got. He stared at me for a long, agonizing second. Then he downed the rest of his water, stood up, and buttoned his jacket. My bag is in my room, he said gruffly. We need a police escort. Nairobi traffic is a killer. I let out a breath I felt I had been holding for a decade. I have a driver who knows the sidewalks. The ride to the hospital was a blur of sirens and swerving. I had called the police commissioner, a man who owed me several favors, and secured a motorcycle escort. We cut through the jams like a knife. When we arrived at the emergency wing, Dr. Amani was waiting. He looked pale. She's crashing again, he said, not wasting time on greetings. We have her on manual vibration. We need to go. Vander Merwe didn't hesitate. He transformed instantly from a tired tourist into a general. Scrub nurses. I need size 4 valves, bovine if you have them, synthetic if you don't. Kenyatta, stay here. They wheeled a gurney past me. I caught a glimpse of her. Neema. She was tiny. So small in the center of the white sheets. An oxygen mask covered most of her face. Her skin was gray. Fight, little one, I whispered as the double doors swung shut, swallowing them into the sterile white belly of the operating theater. And then, silence. The silence of a hospital hallway at 2 a.m. is the loudest sound in the world. It hums with the fluorescent lights. It echoes with the ghosts of prayers whispered by strangers. I collapsed onto a hard plastic chair. My adrenaline was fading, leaving me shaking and cold. I looked down at my hands. They were still dirty. I was the great Kamau Kenyatta, and I was utterly powerless. All my money could do was buy a ticket to the lottery. It couldn't guarantee a win. I pulled out my phone. I needed to call the mansion. I needed to check on Zuri. Mrs. N. George answered on the first ring. Sir? Her voice was tight. Is she sleeping? Sir. I couldn't stop her, Mrs. N. George said, sounding distressed. She woke up screaming. She had a nightmare about the girl. She demanded to know where she was. I told her you went to handle business, but she found the landline history. She saw the call from the hospital. My stomach dropped. Where is she now? She made Omondi take the other car. She is coming to you. She left 10 minutes ago. I cursed under my breath. I wanted to protect her. I wanted to have good news before she arrived. Now she was walking into a war zone. 20 minutes later, the elevator doors at the end of the hall dinged. Zuri stepped out. She was wearing a soft gray tracksuit that belonged to my late wife. Mrs. N. George must have given it to her. It was too big for her. Her hair was wild, drying in frizzy curls around her face. Her eyes were wide, frantic, searching. She saw me. Kamau. She didn't walk, she ran. She collided with me as I stood up, her hands grabbing my lapels, shaking me. Where is she? Where is Neema? She is in surgery, I said, holding her by the shoulders to steady her. Zuri, listen to me. She is with the best doctor in Africa. Dr. Vander Merwe. I went and got him. Surgery? Her knees gave way. I caught her, lowering us both to the plastic chairs. But, they said it was impossible. They said she wasn't strong enough. She is strong, I insisted. And so are you. She looked at me, really looked at me. She saw the mud on my clothes. She saw the exhaustion. She realized what I had done. I had left her in safety to run back into the storm for her child. Why? She whispered, tears spilling over her lashes. Why would you do this? Yesterday you threw us on the street. Today you are saving her life. Who are you, Kamau? I don't know, I admitted, my voice rough. I was a man who thought money was a shield. But when I saw that photo, Zuri, I lost a child once. I couldn't let it happen again. Not on my watch. She stared at me, and the wall between us, the wall of class, of money, of anger, crumbled. She didn't see a billionaire anymore. She saw a partner in pain. She leaned her head against my chest. I hesitated, then wrapped my arm around her. We sat there, two broken people in a hallway, united by fear and hope. The unity of grief. She has to live, Zuri sobbed into my muddy shirt. She's all I have. She's my miracle. Her father left before she was born. My parents are gone. It's just us. You are not alone, I said, the words surprising me. Not anymore. Time stretched. 1 hour. 2. 3. The coffee machine down the hall hummed. Nurses walked past, casting curious glances at the rich man holding the crying woman. At 4:30 a.m. the double doors opened. We both shot up. Dr. van der Merwe stepped out. He was still wearing his surgical greens, a mask hanging around his neck. He looked exhausted. He pulled off his cap, running a hand through his silver hair. Zuri let out a whimper. She couldn't ask. She was too terrified of the answer. I stepped forward, shielding her slightly. Doctor? Van der Merwe looked at us. His face was unreadable. Stone. It was complicated, he said slowly. Her heart was smaller than the imaging showed. When we opened the valve, the pressure dropped significantly. Is she alive? Zuri screamed, the sound tearing from her throat. She is in the ICU, the doctor said. Alive. I pressed. For now, Van der Merwe said. But the next hour is critical. Her body is rejecting the initial blood flow. She is in a coma, induced to keep her calm. If she wakes up in pain, or if her heart rate spikes above 120, the sutures will not hold. He looked directly at Zuri. She needs a reason to stay. Medical science has done all it can. Now she needs the will. Can I see her? Zuri begged. One person only, the doctor said. Sterile environment. Zuri looked at me. Panic flared in her eyes. She was terrified to go in alone, terrified to see her child hooked up to machines. Go, I urged her gently. She needs her mother's voice. Zuri nodded, trembling. She followed the nurse through the doors. I was left alone with Van der Merwe. You did good work getting me here, the doctor muttered, lighting a cigarette despite the no-smoking sign. But don't celebrate yet, Kenyatta. That little girl is dancing on the edge of a razor blade. She will make it, I said, trying to convince myself. Maybe. He blew smoke towards the ceiling. But even if she does, the bill for this, the aftercare, the medication, it will be astronomical. Send it to me, I said. Every cent. You really care about this woman, don't you? I destroyed her life yesterday, I said. I'm just trying to rebuild the foundation. Careful, the doctor warned. Foundations built on guilt tend to crack. Suddenly the doors flew open again. A nurse ran out looking frantic. Doctor. Code blue. Her pressure is bottoming out. My heart stopped. I heard the high-pitched whine of a flatline monitor echoing from the room down the hall. Beep. Damn it. Van der Merwe threw his cigarette on the floor and sprinted back inside. I ran to the observation window. I saw Zuri screaming, being held back by a nurse. I saw the tiny body of Neema convulsing on the bed. I saw the team swarming over her, paddles charging. Clear. Thump. Her body jerked. The line on the monitor stayed flat. Again. Charged to 200. Thump. Still flat. Zuri looked through the glass, her eyes locking with mine. She was screaming my name, mouthing the words, do something. Fix it. I pressed my hand against the cold glass. I was a man who commanded an empire, a man who moved markets with a whisper. But as I watched the straight green line on the monitor, I realized I was nothing. The doctor stopped. He looked at the clock. He looked at the team. He shook his head slowly. No, I whispered. No. The doctor reached for the time of death button on the console. And then I saw Zuri break free from the nurse. She threw herself onto her daughter's chest. She didn't scream. She started to sing. It was faint through the glass, but I heard it. A lullaby. The same one she must have sung in the womb. Lala Toto. Lala Salama? Sleep, baby, sleep peacefully. The doctor paused. He held his hand up, stopping the nurse from pulling her away. Everyone in the room froze. On the monitor, the green line flickered. Once. Twice. And then, a spike. Beep. The sound was weak, like a moth tapping against a window pane. Beep, beep. I stopped breathing. In the sterile silence of the ICU, that sound was louder than any thunderclap. It was the sound of a universe restarting. On the bed, Neema's chest rose. A tiny shallow breath. Then another. The green line on the monitor, which had been a flat road to death, spiked into a mountain of life. Rhythm. Pulse. Destiny. Stable, Dr. Vander Merwe whispered, his voice cracking with disbelief. He looked at his hands, then at Zuri, then at the ceiling. Sinus rhythm is returning. Pressure is normalizing. Zuri collapsed. She didn't fall to the floor, she fell onto her daughter's legs, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. It wasn't the crying of grief anymore, it was the violent, exhausting release of a miracle. I walked into the room. The nurse tried to stop me. Sir, sterile zone. But Vander Merwe waved her off. He knew. He knew that rules didn't apply to moments like this. I stood behind Zuri. I placed my hands on her trembling shoulders. She leaned back into me, her head resting against my stomach, anchoring herself. She came back, Zuri choked out. She heard me, Kamau. She came back. She fought, I said, tears finally spilling hot and fast down my own cheeks. She is a warrior. Just like her mother. The next few hours were a blur of healing. The tubes were adjusted, the lights dimmed. Neema didn't wake up immediately. The doctor said she would sleep for days, but she was alive. Her heart, stitched together by science and jump-started by love, was beating. I didn't leave the hospital. I couldn't. The boardroom called, I ignored it. The stock market opened, I didn't care. My empire was suddenly very small compared to the 3 people in this room. 2 days later, she woke up. I was sitting in the armchair in the corner, reading a business report I wasn't actually processing, while Zuri dozed on a cot next to the bed. Mama? The voice was tiny. Scratchy. Zuri was awake in a nanosecond. Neema. Baby. I'm here. Mama is here. I stood up, feeling like an intruder in this sacred unity. I turned to leave to give them privacy. Who is the giant? I froze. I turned back. Neema was looking at me with large brown eyes, eyes that held the same intelligence as Zuri's. She wasn't scared. She was curious. Zuri looked at me, a smile breaking through her exhaustion like the sun through clouds. That is Mr. Kamau. He is the one who brought the magic doctor. He saved us. Neema studied me. You look like a sad lion. I laughed. It was a rusty sound, something I hadn't used in years. A sad lion? Maybe I was. But I think I am a happy lion today. I walked over to the bed. It is nice to meet you, Neema. She reached out a hand, tiny, wrapped in sensors. I hesitated, then offered my finger. She gripped it. Her grip was weak, but the connection was electric. In that touch, the last of the cold-hearted ice around my soul shattered. I wasn't just a CEO anymore. I was a protector. A week later, the real world came knocking. Or rather, she came strutting in. I was back at my office in the CBD for the first time, sorting through the chaos of my absence. My secretary buzzed. Sir, Ms. Vanessa is here. She says it's urgent. Send her in, I said, leaning back in my leather chair. The doors opened and Vanessa glided in. She looked perfect. Designer dress, flawless makeup, a look of faux concern plastered on her face. Kamau, darling. She rushed to the desk. I've been so worried. The news said you vanished. People were saying you had a breakdown after that horrible incident with the slum woman. I told everyone, no, Kamau is strong, he's just taking a break. She reached for my hand. I didn't move it. I just watched her. It must have been so embarrassing for you, she cooed. That photo. Being seen with trash. But don't worry. I've spoken to the PR team. We can spin it. We can say you were doing charity work and she attacked you. We can fix your image. My image? I repeated calmly. Yes. And then we can announce the merger. My father agrees. It will distract everyone. A royal wedding to silence the rumors. She smiled, predatory and sharp. I opened my laptop. Vanessa, do you remember the night of the gala? Of course. The night you were so stressed. The night you called a photographer named Kevin and told him to follow my limousine to Eastlands. Her smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. I have the call logs, Vanessa. I lied. I didn't need them. Her face told me everything. And I have a statement from Kevin. He was very eager to talk once I explained the legal consequences of stalking. She stood up, her face flushing ugly red. You're bluffing. You wouldn't dare expose me. My father. Your father does business with men of honor? I cut in, my voice dropping to that lethal boardroom tone. Not with women who endanger children for sport. Children? She looked confused. What are you talking about? Because of your tip, because of your jealousy, an eviction happened that nearly killed a 6-year-old girl. You didn't just play a prank, Vanessa. You almost committed manslaughter. I stood up, towering over her. You are banned from this building. I am pulling my investment from your father's mining group effective immediately. And if you ever come near me or my family again, I will release the photographer's statement to every tabloid in the country. You will be the pariah. Family? She whispered, shocked. You chose the waitress? You chose the poor girl? She is not poor, I said, feeling a surge of pride. She has a richness you will never understand. Now get out. Vanessa opened her mouth to argue, saw the look in my eyes and closed it. She turned and fled. It wasn't a violent victory. It was a quiet, absolute erasure. Justice had been served. 3 weeks later. The day Neema was discharged was bright and clear. The rains had stopped, leaving Nairobi washed clean and green. I picked them up in the Rolls-Royce. Not the black one. A white one. A new beginning. Where are we going? Zuri asked as Omondi navigated the traffic. She looked healthier now. Her skin glowed. She was wearing a new dress I had bought for her, yellow like the sunshine. You need a place to stay, I said. The doctor said Neema needs a clean environment for recovery. I found a rental in South Sea, Zuri said proudly. I can afford the deposit now that you paid the hospital bill. I will pay you back, Kamau. Every shilling. I know you will, I smiled. But first we have to make a stop. The car turned into Eastlands. Zuri stiffened. Why are we here? She asked, her voice tight. This is where. Trust me, I said. Trust restored was the foundation we were building on. The car stopped in front of the old diner. Zuri gasped. The for rent sign was gone. The broken windows were fixed. The faded Mama Zuri's kitchen sign had been replaced with a beautiful hand-painted wooden sign. Neema's Kitchen, Fine Dining and Soul Food. The exterior was painted a fresh, welcoming blue. There were flower pots outside. What is this? Zuri whispered. I didn't sell the building, I admitted. I bought it. But I didn't buy it to tear it down. I bought it to invest. I opened the car door and helped Neema out. She squealed when she saw the sign with her name. Is it ours? Neema asked, bouncing on her toes. It is your mother's, I said, handing Zuri a heavy envelope. The deed. Free and clear. And I hired a contractor to redo the kitchen. Industrial stoves. Proper ventilation. It's ready for business. Zuri stood on the sidewalk, clutching the envelope. She looked at the shop, then at me. Tears streamed down her face, but these were happy tears. You gave me back my dream, she sobbed. You gave me back my heart, I replied softly. She walked up to me, ignoring the neighbors who were watching, ignoring the difference in our stations. She reached up and cupped my face. You are a good man, Kamau Kenyatta, she whispered. I am learning, I said. I have a good teacher. I leaned down. We didn't kiss, not yet. It was too public, too soon. But I pressed my forehead against hers. It was a promise. A vow more powerful than any wedding ring. We have a lot of work to do, I murmured. Opening a restaurant. Raising a daughter. Dealing with a grumpy billionaire. I think I can handle the billionaire, she smiled. The restaurant will be the hard part. Neema ran between us, grabbing both our hands. I'm hungry. Can we cook mandazi? Yes, I laughed, lifting her up, careful of her stitches. We can cook whatever you want. I looked at them. The woman who challenged me. The child who saved me. I thought about the mansion on the hill. It was still big, still empty. But it wouldn't be for long. I knew where I would be spending my evenings. Not at galas, not in boardrooms, but here in a small kitchen in Eastlands, smelling of flour and sugar, listening to a little girl laugh. I had chased a fortune my whole life, but I had finally found the only treasure that mattered. Love wins. And for the Lion of Nairobi, the hunt was finally over. End of story. Wow. What a journey. From a coffee spill to a life-saving surgery, Kamau and Zuri proved that love is the greatest wealth of all. Vanessa got what she deserved and little Neema got a brand new future. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please type "Love Wins" in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video with a friend who needs a miracle today. We will see you in the next story.